Are you going to be at X3 or XBiz LA this year? It is award season, so you know what? Everyone who is somebody and who wants to be is going to be in town in Los Angeles collaborating. And of course, you want to ensure that you're doing this safely. So, courtesy of Sage Health, located in Van Nuys, California, we are offering $15 off your test this winter. Use code StrippedBySia to get $15 off. We'll see you in person, and happy testing. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stripped by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, Steph Sia, aka Kimchi on Stage. Again, if you're listening, it is now the new year, 2024. I don't actually know where I'll be booked for right now, just because I have a very busy January and also February as well. So you might be seeing me at the earliest, maybe end of February, maybe at the Taboo show, maybe at AVN. I still haven't decided, but hopefully by the time this is released, I will have more information for you. But if you are just tuning in and you don't know what the show is all about, the show is all about the sex industry, the adult industry, and destigmatizing the work. And I do that by bringing different guests onto the show every single week. So whether they are on-screen talent, maybe it's some people, producers, directors in the back end, maybe it is some nonprofit organizations that help benefit and support sex workers. I really tried to bring a diverse amount of guests onto the show so we could really accurately illustrate what sex work is without all the stigma, without all the shininess and sensationalism and glamorization, but just to get some real talk on here. So I know a lot of you are listening to the show because you might be using this as a resource. Maybe you're just popping in, trying to do your due diligence in terms of like, okay, this is the year I want to, jump with both feet in and get into the industry. Maybe you've been here for a while, like I have been here for the past 10 years, doing all sorts of sex work in the industry and just want to continue to learn more. So there's so many different people out there, maybe clients, there's lots of you out there listening as well. But whatever the reason may be, yes, this podcast is purely informational, informative, hopefully resourceful, and hopefully you'll learn a thing or two and have a takeaway from the show. So this week is no different. We are talking about Sage Health, which I'm very, very excited. It's a brand new testing service based in Los Angeles. And we will definitely get into all the nitty gritty, but I got to just say hello and thank all the wonderful Patreon subscribers who have subscribed financially to the show. Hello. I just want to say hi to those who are on the top tier. A quick little shout out here. It's one of your perks. I just want to say hello to Dan from Red Door Products. We got Snoosu from Germany, Justin Erickson from Vancouver, Washington. We've got Geyser, Selena Money, Moxie Mayhem, Eric Rajo. I actually don't know where you are all located, but hello and thank you. We've got a fellow content creator, B. York from Seattle, who's also subscribed. We've got Mechanic King from Edmonton, Canada. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. All of your funds basically go help support the hosting of my website, strippedbysia.com, and also helps fund for me to go to adult industry events because there's obviously a cost to that and they're not always cheap. So thank you all for that. If you're interested in financially supporting the show and to get exclusive access to video content, we have early release for episodes, tons of bonus episodes that are on there as well that do not see the light of day ever. You can go check it out. It's patreon.com/strippedbysia. And as I mentioned, my website, Stripped by Sia, it's also made by a wonderful sponsor of ours, Fox Digital, who is a friend of mine. Hey, Anthony. Anthony from Fox Digital is giving listeners of Stripped by Sia 20% off new website builds, or if you want like a new makeover for your website, whatever the reason it may be. Maybe this is the year that you're going to go online. This is the year you're going to go digital. Go check them out. It's foxdigital.design and tell them I sent you for 20% off. Okay, back to the show. I'm so excited to get that stuff under 4 to 5 minutes now. I'm really excited to bring on this week's guest. We're going to be talking about Sage Health, which is a brand new premier testing service, as I mentioned, based in the Los Angeles area, with its founder, Amy Phelan, on the show today, who is a former adult industry talent, perhaps ex-AVN employee. Again, this is stuff that I found online. Amy is going to be here to also be introducing herself on the show and do probably a better job than I can ever do. Please welcome Amy onto the show.
Nice to be here. I'm so excited. How are you today, Sia?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you so much. I'm super stoked for you to be here and to tell everyone what Sage Health is about. I've only heard fabulous and great things from some folks that have actually been on the show before, which is awesome. And just to hear a little bit more about yourself as well. I mean, maybe perhaps we can switch gears and bring the mic back to you if you want to give yourself a lovely introduction as well, because I might have butchered yours. Feel free to go right ahead.
No, you hit a lot of the highlights, so I appreciate that. I
Yay.
am an I am an ex-AVN employee. So how I got into the industry was through AVN. I was the event coordinator, social media manager, and then in the last few years, I was also, when AVN Stars still existed, I was the customer support manager of AVN Stars. And so doing that at AVN really immersed me with talent, and I became friends with talent. Um, we had, and AVN still has to this day, but I met people on Fresh Faces Day. So they would come into the AVN office when they had just signed with an agent, and AVN takes pictures of them and does initial interviews. So everyone can kind of have an idea of who the new rising stars, I'm sorry, who the rising stars are going to be in the industry. And so I was always very close with all the talent. And then also when you're looking at the expo and the award show of AVN, I was working with all that talent, helping on the photo shoots and stuff like that. So I got a chance to really meet the talent at the beginning or at the height of their careers, and just became friends with a lot of them and would be in these conversations on a daily basis with them of like how the industry is going and what's going on in the industry. And so, first of all, AVN is still, weird to say, but my porn home, I guess. Like, this is where I started in the industry. It'll always be, I love AVN so much. I actually, when I left that job, I did cry. It was my decision to leave, but it
Oh,
was it was the pandemic, and like there was just a lot. We all needed different things during that time. And so, but like AVN is still my home. I love AVN, and not to like discount anyone else, but like that's where I grew up in the industry, and that's where I met everyone in the industry. So AVN is a huge part of it. And the fact that like I was planning these conventions in Amsterdam and Las Vegas and working on the teams, putting these together for so much talent. I was 100% the behind the scenes girl, but if you knew me, I would do everything I could to
mm-hmm.
help you. So that's
Wow.
kind of
That's awesome.
like that's kind of like how I got into the
Oh, sorry,
industry, of
continue.
like just making sure that everyone was taken care of. And then now it continues on to Sage Health, which is what I've always wanted, is just an ability to help my friends.
That's incredibly inspiring and so lovely to hear like you speak so highly of AVN as well. I went to actually my first AVN earlier this year. So that was really exciting. Hoping to go back again for, I guess, this next year at the time of this episode being released, which is really exciting. But I mean, going back to you and before we kind of dive into Sage Health and how you started that baby, I guess, like, I guess you didn't have any prior experience in the adult industry before working for AVN, or like, was it just like a job that you applied for and then you
Oh
found yourself
no,
there, or?
it It's the craziest story, and I'll tell you it, but it is the craziest story. So I had a profile up on LinkedIn. And before AVN, I was an event coordinator. I managed nightclubs. At one point, I was the youngest manager in Los Angeles of a nightclub. At 19 years old, I was managing a nightclub. And
Oh my
I
gosh.
got a call from a recruiter. And she's like, hey,
Okay.
she's like, I would love to talk to you about working at AVN and all this stuff. And I misheard her. And I thought she said ACN, which, if you
Oh my
Google,
gosh.
is like a telecom multi level marketing company.
Oh my gosh.
And oh, these will be fun events to plan and all this stuff. And so, like, I'm going through the email, and she kept asking, like, are you sure you're okay with this? Because she's like, this is what we don't want. We don't want you to come in telling us you're okay with this and not being okay. And I'm like, no, like, you're selling telephones. Like,
Right.
why is this? Why are we asking me this many questions? And so reading the email again, and I'm sitting with the guy I'm dating at this point, and he looks at the email and he's like, babe, that says AVN. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, what the hell is AVN? And he started laughing. And he's like, oh God. And I like Googled it, and I was like, oh, now this makes more sense why she keeps asking me if I'm okay with this type of work. All right, this makes sense. Great. And so I was a little more prepared, but I did like,
Mhm.
so I called my mom, and I was like, be sure you're okay with this before I do this, before I go on this interview. And she's like, oh, are you going to be in front of
Mhm.
the camera at any point? And I'm like, not that I know of. I don't think so. Like, I think my whole thing will be behind the camera. She's like, I'm fine with it if you're okay with it. And I'm like, cool. So I went on the job interview.
Nice.
Immediately fell in love with the company. Tony Rios is the owner, and he's the CEO, and amazing Beth Noonan, who is now the VP. At that point, she was the head event manager, and I worked directly under her for years. Like, they are people who have been in the industry for so long and have such respect for everyone in the industry that it was just 100% an easy thing to do. And so I signed up, and yeah, that's how I started at AVN.
Wow.
But I did not know I was getting into porn until I was at the job interview, essentially. So
Amy, that's incredible. That is such a wild story. Oh my gosh, like completely like, almost like lost in translation almost. So fun. I mean, I think what I heard was your mom was asking like, "Are you going to be in front of the camera?" And
yeah, and it wasn't, I don't think she would ever have a problem if I decided to, but like, it, I have so much respect for what my friends and, you do. And it's, you share the most intimate moments of your life with all these people. And you have to have a lot of confidence and gumption and so much to do that. And that is not something I have at this point. You never know, it could change, but it's respect and like just amazingness to watch, because like when everyone thinks of the adult industry, they always think, the horrible stories, which I always get so mad at, because every industry you're in, there's horrible stories. It's not like the grocery store
yeah,
down the street, there's a horrible person working there. It's not like because they all work at the grocery store, they're horrible.
right. Yeah, exactly.
The way I was raised is like, you never judge anyone by their jobs. And so it made it very simple for me. And then I just found people I love. And, a lot of my best friends are amazing performers. And, our conversations are a little more outrageous than most conversations. And some of my friends joke with me. They're like, Amy, you're around normal people right now, not poor people. You have to watch what you say. I'm like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Which, I mean, I was excited to do this podcast because this is the first industry podcast I've ever done. I've
Oh
done
yeah, yeah, yeah.
podcasts that are not industry, But talk, they always bring me on as like, here, she's the event planner for porn stars. Like, she's fun. Da, 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 da. They bring me on these podcasts. And I get so used to censoring myself based off social media, like calling us accountants and,
Right.
spicy and all this stuff. And so it's
Spicy
nice to
accountants.
actually be somewhere where I can say the actual things. So I enjoy the fact that I'm actually amongst people that I can actually say the real words amongst, and I'm not worried about getting
Yay.
shut
Yes.
it.
No censorship here at all. So go
Yes.
off.
But yeah, no, so I worked at AVN for 6 years and I loved it and I learned so much. And when you come in as being the new person, I believe the first day we had a meeting and there were a lot of terms being thrown back and forth that I had no clue what they meant. And I'm talking like bukkake and stuff like that. And literally, I would get like this confused look on my face as, anything was getting mentioned. And we had Slack. And so someone in the meeting would send me the definition of what the things were so I could keep up with it. And I'm like, I really appreciate this so much because like I'm learning a lot of new terms today and I don't know what any of them mean.
That's hilarious. I was gonna be like, I was like, did you Google this later? But no, it was nice that you had someone over there to be like, this is what we're referring to.
100%.
Fast learning
And
curve
then
for
now,
sure.
and this is still a debate, but I want to write a book that's like porn terms for dummies and just like everything you need to know. That is a goal at some point to write that book because it's funny. Like you'll get people be like, "What's MFM?"
You
I'm
know
like,
what,
"It's okay."
Amy, if you ever do, I'm sure a lot of us would buy that book. So
Yes.
let us know.
Next time I come on, it'll be
Right,
promoting the
right.
book.
Well, maybe that would be another venture after Sage Health, but we are definitely here to talk about Sage Health. I know we briefly mentioned it at the top of this episode here, but maybe we can kind of go into deep dive all things Sage Health. So maybe I'll let you kind of take the reins here and just tell the audience, like introduce us. What is Sage Health and why is this service so needed?
So, how I started Sage Health. Sage Health was an idea for me of more wanting to make sure that my friends and people in the industry were taken care of. And so this wasn't like an overnight thing. Like I talked to every single human being I could. If someone gave me time of day, I did. It was directors, it was talent, it was studios, it was agents. And it's very funny because all sets of those four peoples had different requirements that they needed for a testing company. And I'm like, we're all getting the same test. It's not that the test changes or anything, but how every single person in that group used the test was completely different. And so, or what they needed from that test was completely different, is what I should say. Because, if if someone can't shoot last minute, that studio is calling their agents going, can this person test? And so then if you have a person who is within their testing frame, they're easy to send out. But if their test expires before, then they needed emergencies and stuff like that. And so a lot of the times when I was talking to my friends about it, it was, well, what do you need? Like, what will help you? This is what you're doing. You have to get tested to do work. You get tested for someone who is working solidly. The tests are every 14
Mm-hmm.
days. That means you're testing 26 weeks a year. And like, that's a lot of time. And that's a lot of time that you consistently have to do. And then on top of it, it is, and people with inside the industry know this, but people who don't,
Right.
talent pays for their own tests most of the time. There are few exceptions, but 96%, by the way, I just made up that number. It is 100% not realistic, but most of the people are paying for their own tests. And so if you're paying for
Mm-hmm.
something every 2 weeks, you want to be sure you can use it. And this is how you make your money. And so there was a lot of thought process that went into that. And so one of the first things I did when going to Sage Health and, starting to create a testing company was
Right.
we have to be open like 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we're
It's
open 8
amazing.
a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday through Sunday, every day. And no matter what day of the week you get tested, you get your test results noon the next day. So if you test on Saturday, you get your test results on Sunday. If you test on Sunday, you get your test results on Monday. And it's always, we guarantee by noon. And that's if, you test at noon with us. If you test at
Awesome.
7:45 p.m., you will have your test results by noon next day. And that was very, very important to me because I wanted to be sure my friends were taken care of. This is how everyone makes money. And I wanted to make sure they were taken care of in a way that made sense and was good to them. And I also wanted to make sure it was a place they feel safe. And just being friends with the sex workers I know, like, a lot of times in your life, there's a lot of times you don't feel safe because you're a sex worker. Let's make sure the medical part that you have to do is safe. And so when we started Sage, I went. Sorry, let me back up just a step because this will explain a little bit more. Sage Health, we exist with inside an urgent care. We did that very specifically to always have a doctor around to make sure if someone does have a positive test, they can come back to the same place the next day and go, "Hi, my test is positive. What do I need to take? Am I taking these drugs? And, what's the prescription?" And that sort of stuff. And then there's a pharmacy right next door. So literally you just pop out of one store and right into another to go get the prescriptions you need. And we wanted to make sure that everything was medically sound and above board because, first of all, that's what everyone deserves who is searching out any kind of medical need in the country, no matter what. They deserve to know something is medically safe and sound. And then when I started there, the poor people, not the poor people, but like the people that we started it with, I was very like, these are the conversations we're having. You will be sex worker friendly. This is what you never say to a sex worker. This is what you do say to a sex worker.
Wow.
And I put the team through the paces before we opened doors. So like, I would say the 3 weeks prior, I tested 10 times. Now, I don't have good veins, so I was straight up a pincushion for, 3 weeks, and I would have, like, bandages all over my arms and stuff, just because I would be like, "Okay, cool, you drew my blood, next one, who needs to draw my blood next?" Like, I went through every phlebotomist, every nurse in that place, and I made sure they could all draw my blood. And the beautiful thing is I learned tricks from them too that a lot of sex workers don't know to help them. Like if you have bad veins like I do, and actually I did learn this from a friend of mine. She did wall push-ups. She has really bad veins, and so she does wall push-ups before she gets her blood drawn.
I did not
and
know
it
that.
pumps up her blood and makes it easier for them to draw blood on her. So see, I got all these tips. Like this was months and weeks and days of just learning as much as I could about this stuff. And even talent I didn't know that well, like I called them and I'm like, "Hey, so what's testing like for you?" And the one thing I made sure I did is I hit every facet of the industry. And so I wanted to make sure, like, I am a straight, single, white female. It is what I am. It is who I am. I have no idea what it's like for a gay male to get tested. I don't. I have no idea what it's like for a trans person to get tested.
Wow.
And so I talk to everyone. Sorry, excuse me.
Damn. Amy, this is incredible. First of all, I just want to applaud you for doing
what goes into this
all of this research.
What part is
it's
important.
A lot of work, and also that you were able to acknowledge all the stigma that folks in our industry, we get when we are getting tested. We get weird questions, we get weird remarks, we get weird looks, lots of judgment, lots of assumptions made. And it's a lot of like discrimination that can happen on that front. So you providing adequate training that's sex worker friendly is just, it's so applaudable, and it's so refreshing to hear that as well. So thank you for doing the good work for the community.
Of course. Well, and there was a lot of times, and I can tell this, I'll tell the story. Actually, it was leaving AVN this past year. So I attended AVN this last year, even though I didn't work for AVN anymore. I went with some friends, and we were on the flight back home. So Burbank to, or I'm sorry, Las Vegas to Burbank is like a 45-minute flight. And the flight there is all, the week of AVN, it's all porn stars on that flight, and it's all porn stars on the flight home. It's all industry people.
Yep.
And we were on Southwest, and of course it's choose your own seat. And I remember we were getting on the flight, and there was a couple, and the wife didn't want anyone in the industry to sit next to her husband, essentially is what it was. And I'm like, what do you think is going to happen? We're all tired. And it's not like we touch, we're not like, you don't just put us in a room and we're like, cool, let's do stuff to each other. There's 100%. So much consent that is involved in every step. And literally, like, just watching her, like, just talk crap to people. And finally, one of the flight attendants, God bless this flight attendant, got involved and was like, you cannot question people on what they were doing in Vegas before they sit down next to you and your husband. Totally. What were you doing in Vegas for the weekend? Like, what?
That's so frustrating.
On a plane. It doesn't matter. So, and it's just like seeing it in so many different parts of life. I wanted to make sure when it came to testing, that was never going to be an issue.
It's really important to have that support too. And also, I just want to quote something that you wrote here as well, because I think it's also really important to note as well. I know that you had sent these awesome notes for this episode, which is really, really great. But you wrote here, like, I dreamed of a program that supported us from testing to care if a positive test resulted, and a hospitality component that would make our guests at Sage feel welcomed. This is, it just encompasses everything that you've just said. And I'm just like, I love this quote so much.
Like, why would you want to, like, first of all, why would you want to go someplace you're not welcome, or that you feel that you're not welcomed? And then on top of it, knowing you have to go minimum 26 times a year?
No. Yeah.
Like, no. And I am that human where this is me to a T. If I'm uncomfortable, I either have a safety buddy with me, just in any, like, interaction, like going to a party. I do not like going to parties where I don't know people and stuff, because I don't like talking to new people. It takes me a minute to get but it's like, I wanted to, I guess, build a place where you didn't need a safety buddy. You didn't have to be like, hey, like, I gotta go test today. I don't want to test today. Now, I can't stop the blood draw. Sorry. You got to get the swabs. I can't help with that part.
Yeah.
But I can make the rest of it as easy
required,
as
but also it can be like a very intimate, vulnerable thing. Like going to the doctors, like, and you get a positive result, that is really scary. But also doctors in general is just an uncomfortable place to be for a lot of us. I don't think I know anyone that actually enjoys going to get their blood drawn. Like, it's nobody's favorite pastime. So you creating a really welcoming and safe environment for folks in our industry, where a lot of us, outside of our industry, the world is actually like kind of like not a safe place, is so paramount. So thank you for making a space like this. I definitely want to continue to learn more about Sage. You've already noted so many great proponents of your business too, in terms of like guaranteed 12 p.m. results the next day. That is amazing, and something that you don't often hear about. And the fact that you're open on weekends is awesome. It just sounds like you've hit the accessibility on the head.
And this is one of my favorite stories
Oh,
to
wow.
tell is someone came and tested the night before Thanksgiving. And they had their results at Thanksgiving dinner the next day. Noon on Thanksgiving, they had their test results. And it was funny because they were shocked. They're like, wait, like, I'm like, no, the lab still runs 20, the lab still works. We may all be on vacation at that point, but we wanted to make sure, like, and especially when you're getting to the point where, all the studios are starting their big scenes for next year. So, like, a lot of studios go back January 2nd, January 3rd, trying to get what they can before XBiz, before AVN, or during, because you have all the talent there that you never have. Like, exactly. Everyone's in one place. And I had made a joke because the amount of scenes that are filmed at XBiz and AVN are ridiculous. And but it's good, but it's always, make sure you're safe. And that's the best part is talent always makes sure they are, because they know they affect tens of, I mean, when you go out the way, 1,000 people, like when you do the connection tree. And that's one thing that I do love, that sex workers are so, they know they affect other people's lives. And it's because if you failed a test and, were shady, not saying anyone is, I'm never saying this, but that person is going to affect everyone that person slept with. Well, since they're testing every 14 days, there's a period of time. And so I do love that everyone is so conscious about the safety of it. And I wanted to build something that would back their consciousness.
So important, because as I mentioned, like this, you pretty much need this, especially like in studio work and mainstream porn. You absolutely need to be testing for whatever, STIs and MGen and all the things that, it's required for that. So important. I want to ask too, because like this just seems like so left field. Like, did you have any experience at all in the health sector, or is this just something that came out of like your connections at AVN with other talent and you're like, okay, this is where I want to go? Like, it just seems like a lot.
Oh, it is. My connection is my mom is a nurse practitioner growing up, so I was always around medical information. That was nothing new to me. I am the black sheep of the family who I'm like, I'm gonna plan parties,
of course.
and everyone else in my family is like medical human beings. So I think that was a huge part of it. And then truthfully, it was going through the pandemic, and this is going to be weird to say, but it does all connect in my brain a little bit. It was seeing, the country is waiting on test results, always waiting on a COVID test result. And I remember my brother is in the military, and his test result took like 3 days to get back. And, there's all this waiting for test results. And if you go to a non-industry lab, the STI results come in 3 or 4 days. And it's, by the way, we are open to anyone in a interesting lifestyle, swingers, polyamorous, anyone who is super sexually active, get tested. You have to. But it's interesting because, if you go to a normal place to get your STI test, it takes 3 or 4 days. You go to your doctor. They don't have those results for you next day. And it just shows where testing is for a lot of diseases. And I knew that the industry had the ability to turn around tests faster. And I just wanted to make sure it was done. And I'm kind of that person where like, oh, I think I can make this better. How do I? And truthfully, it was
Yeah.
going to my
Yeah.
friends
I also
and
have
just
questions about that too,
listening.
Amy, since we're going back there again. When you were conducting your research to build up Sage Health, you mentioned like, the directors want something, the agencies want something, talent wants another thing too. Like, and can you share any of those findings in terms of like, what was needed? What were their ideal wants and needs? Um,
Oh, 100, yeah, 100%. So, I mean, with talent, and I talk to everyone because, like like I've said, is I am a single white female. This is who I am.
mhm.
I have no idea what it's like to test as a gay man. I have no idea what it's like to test as a trans person. And so the first thing I did was I just started with my close friends, and I went, "Hey, I've got a crazy idea. Don't know if this is really happening, but like, what do you want?" And having the conversations was, they
Mhm.
just wanted a place that was available to them
Mhm.
for longer hours. That's essentially what talent wanted. I mean, there were other things, but it was
Right.
like, I want to be able to go someplace at 7 p.m. at night and test and not rush. Because let's be honest, or at least
You
I
and me
am, I'm
both.
a procrastinator, 100%. And so, agents wanted the ability to send
Right.
people for
Mhm.
not having to make an appointment, just walk-ins, which that was easy. Directors wanted the ability, if they flew someone in,
Right.
they could send them straight there, test, and have results the next day. And so if they flew them in on a Saturday, they flew them on a Sunday, because when you're going to studios who are flying talent in, or I don't know if they fly talent in, or I don't know who pays for that part of it, so I'm not going to talk about that part of it. But if a talent is coming in from out of town to film,
Mm,
sometimes they don't test before they leave their place, which makes sense because, some talent lives in, we're in an age of
totally.
everyone's commuting now. And so some talent lives in, Texas or different cities. And it's, they don't test until they get
Right.
there. And it's like, oh, I'm positive now. So
Right.
not only have I flown to this city,
Right.
but now I
Yeah.
can't shoot. And so that was very important to build the
Mhm.
next step of being able to see a doctor
Right.
right away, or being able to see a healthcare provider right away, because you fly in for 3 weeks, and if you're positive, you may or may not have time for those antibiotics to take work, but
Right.
you've paid the money to be out here for 3 weeks. You've paid for the Airbnb, or you're staying at the model house. We want to make sure you're
Yeah.
saving as much money
Definitely.
as you can and hopefully getting you seen quicker. And then, so that
Mhm.
was really the biggest
Yeah.
thing on the
Those are major
studio's
for
part, is
sure. I
they're
mean,
like, we just
when
want to
you
be able to
had
know as
this
soon as
intel
possible.
and you were able to like, okay, this is actually an idea that I actually want to make into a business. How were you able to do that? I think you mentioned that you found an investor as well. Please, yes.
I did. I found an amazing female investor. By the way,
Yes.
we're female owned, we're female ran, we, through and through,
Mhm.
which I feel is kind of important. And no harsh on guys or anything, but like, when you're dealing with vulnerable things already, I feel like women have a little
Yes.
more understanding of how to handle vulnerable things. And so, um, every step of this, yeah. So I found this amazing investor who I've been friends with for years, and I just kind of went and said, I have this crazy idea, and listened to me, and, did the research with me, and, paid attention to what I was saying, and it got built. And this is when I said we were actually opening, I think my friends thought I was drunk. Like, they were like, wait a second, you went from asking us all these questions. And by the way, when I text people, I usually forget to say hello or hi. I forget to do that. And so generally my friends would get this question of like, hey, so the last time you had an STI, how long did it take you to go see a doctor? Were they helpful? Da 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 da. Oh, by the way, good morning. You know, and so my friends were so used to getting text messages from me, like hopping in the middle, that when I was like, finally like, Sage is opening, they're like, wait, what? Like, you actually did this? I'm like, I did. I'm not sure how, but I did. And I will say, like, because, you know, when you open every business, there's a hurdle. There's always hurdles. Like, it doesn't matter. So the first thing was getting PASS certified. That was the first hurdle I hit. And PASS requires a lab to be open or a lab to be functioning and working for 2 weeks before they even come see you guys. And PASS is very protective of the industry. And I love them for that, as they should be. But like, it was so funny because I would like message them. I'd be like, I'm opening, guys. Like, when are you coming to check out Sage? And I just went to them repeatedly. And finally, not finally, it didn't take that long. They're like, okay, yeah, like, we have people talking about you. Let's come see what's going on. And so getting PASS certified was very important. And for the people who don't know, PASS is the, you know what, I'll let everyone can go look at passcertified.org. Yes. If you're in the adult industry, you should know what PASS is. It's very important. And so you guys can read up on what PASS certified is, but they are essentially the ones who set the 14-day testing policy. If there is an outbreak of any point, they're the ones that call the moratorium on filming, which this is also what a lot of people outside the industry don't understand, is there have been moratoriums that have shut down filming. And that's actually kind of where I got interested in the testing in the beginning, was because I worked at AVN. So we got all the press releases. And it's like, oh, there's a moratorium. And I felt so much better. Because like when I first got in the industry, I had no idea. I was like, what is PASS? Testing? How often do you test? What is this? And knowing that someone was overwatching to make sure talent was safe, and if there was an outbreak of something, there was people helping to make sure it gets cleared up before more people are exposed. So, you know, but everyone should go to PASS certified.
Yes, and we did speak
to learn about
PASS
because
a
they're
couple
very
weeks
important
ago as well when I had Lucy Hart on the show to speak about that. So if you want to go back a few episodes, you can kind of find out more information there as well.
And so, you know, getting PASS certified was a big thing. And then getting approved by the studios is another big thing. And because, again, everyone's very protective. We understand that we live in an industry bubble that not everyone else is involved in. And because I had worked at AVN, I had access to these studios. And I was like, hey, let's talk. I want to make sure my tests are approved by you guys because, you know, if you have a major studio that's not going to accept your test, that's a problem. And so, you know, that was, you know, my next hurdle was making sure all the studios were good, which, by the way, I'm good with all the studios. All the studios love me. So we're good. But so, yeah, becoming PASS certified was very important, and being studio approved. And we are now both of those. And we opened.
Yeah, I was going to say, because we opened in October.
We actually opened 2 months ago.
There we go. Congratulations.
Yeah, October 26th. So like 2 months and 3 days. So we've really done things that would take months or years for other humans to do based off my connections and just doing nonstop research. I was able to do it a little bit faster, but I wanted to make sure, like, I had to make sure we were taking care of everybody.
It definitely sounds like you have been, you know, doing your due diligence and taking care of everyone, all the parties involved as well. And I'm just so impressed. I feel like I'm on an episode of like How I Built This right now. And I'm like Guy Raz interviewing you.
Oh, that's like
But
the
adult
nicest
industry
compliment I've
related.
gotten. Thank you.
I think it's really cool. Of course.
Always have to be a little adult.
But going back to Sage, I know there's a lot more that you'd probably have to say about Sage, but like talking about like, good support. What does good support, or what does support in general like look like to you?
Support. There's a lot of people who are new to the industry, and there's definitely some protege part in the industry, I will say, and people teaching the new people coming in, going, okay, this is what you want to do, this is all the stuff. And I wanted to make sure that the people that were teaching new
Right.
people were giving them all the information. And so, because let's be honest, we all have our favorite humans, companies, everything we do. And so we get into our little niche, and I wanted to make sure that the support we had was available to everyone, whether you've been in the industry for 10 minutes or 20 years. And someone who's been testing 26 times a year for the last 20 years, what they want and need from a testing company are going to be different than someone who just started in the industry. Because when you're first starting and this is new and you're like, I have to do swabs, what are you talking about? I have, what is all this part? And I just wanted to make sure. So what I really wanted to do was make sure we were as open with people as we could possibly be, and going, this is what's going on. These are the tests you're taking. This is the results. And if you need to talk to someone medically, let us know. And there have been times where we've gotten calls and people are like, I don't understand how this test reads. And I'm like, okay, no problem. Let me get one of my medical people on the phone, because you don't know. I am not a medical person. Let me just start there. But I am the connector to help, I guess, make the communication easier is what I want to say. Because sometimes doctors can say stuff and it doesn't make sense to people. Sometimes doctors forget to, right? And so I'm like, if you're telling me about my health, I should be able to understand what you're saying. And so I wanted to make sure, because labs and medical are very black and white. It's very, this is the box, this is how it's done, it's medical stuff. Humans are not black and white. Humans are, every question under the sun. And I wanted to make sure to have that ability for people to be able to
really
ask and get an
important.
answer. And so, and especially with, MGen, like the MGen test that we are now doing in the industry, this was a whole new thing. And like PASS has been doing town halls on it and stuff like that. And it's, we're talking to many people about not only STIs, but now new STIs. And it's how you affect your life for years, because we all, well, at least I did. Most people have made that dumb mistake when they're like 17 or 18. And it's like making sure nothing that you did affects the rest of your life. And because that was a huge thing with, what people don't realize is, on the extreme side of some of these STIs, they can affect you. That's
really important to mention
lifelong.
that too, because sexual health is really important. Because as you mentioned, some things are curable, but some things you might have for life, and you'll have to take care of that, and you might have to adjust your life depending on what it is. And there's new infections emerging here and there that we have to be aware of, and not just affecting your life, but also others, as we mentioned earlier on in the episode. So it's important that we take this super, super, super seriously. And I guess on that note, what does Sage Health test for? I would just assume everything, but if you want to go into that, we can go into that as well. Mhm.
So we do test for the pass approved panels, which that is 9 different tests for 7 different STIs. And so we cover everything that is required by the industry. Within those tests, people are like, why are there 9 different tests for 7 different STIs? Shouldn't it be 7 tests for 7 STIs? There are different
Methods
testing.
Mm.
What's the word I'm looking for? There's different testing windows and methods to make sure you get the most concurrent answers. And all of that was given to us by PASS. So PASS has an approved set of tests. And they're like, these are the tests that need to be run. This is how they need to be run. And they go and check the lab and all that stuff. And so it was very important that we did have all of those covered. And so we are built for the adult industry. We are open to everyone, and everyone should be tested regularly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not in a committed relationship. And I have this conversation with all of my non-industry friends all the time. They're like, because they always turn to me. They're like, "When's the last time you got tested?" I'm like, 2 weeks ago. And they're like, "Why?"
Yeah,
and I'm like,
right?
"Because I'm starting to see someone new." And they're like, and I'm like, "Look, if I'm ever in a bar, this, first of all, this won't happen anymore because I'm smarter than this now. But if I'm ever in a bar, the chances is I'm going to go home with a porn star before I go home with a regular drunk dude."
Yes.
Because I know the porn star has been tested recently.
Yes.
The regular drunk dude has not been tested in months or years and is, yeah. And so having those, getting the test is the important part.
Amy, you've brought such a wonderful service to the market. I'm so thankful that you're able to create a service like this for the adult industry. However, I do think it's time for us to talk about the exclusive perks that Sage Health offers. So let's go off on that.
Yeah. So, with Sage Health, we do have the ability, again, 7 days a week, test results by noon next day. Testing on Saturdays and Sundays is always my favorite, is like, that way you don't lose it. Because again, a lot of people don't realize when you test is when your 14 days starts. And so if your test results 2 days late, you only have 12 days before you have to test again. And you don't have that full time period. So with Sage, we want to make sure you get as much of your time as possible because, you work hard for those tests. And then we do have, we have Sage ambassadors. We have packages that we have. So we do, I would say I call it's just a package, and it has 2 tests that include MGen and 2 tests that don't, to follow with the PASS protocol of MGen testing every 30 days. And so we ensure that your monthly package also includes an MGen test, so you don't have to worry about that. It's not an extra charge. It's included in your test. And we do have, we have Sage ambassadors. We would love to have more Sage ambassadors. If anyone wants to reach out to me, we would love to talk to you about being Sage ambassadors. My email is amy@sagehealth.net. And I spell Amy normal, AMY. Let me say this. I spell Amy the easy way.
Yeah, it's 3 letters,
It's 3.
guys. Come on.
But also, I love that we're important. You can spell Tiffany 17 different ways. I've seen Amy spelled 12. Like, I always, and even with Sia, like with your name, I was like, I had to double check like 3 times. I'm like, okay, it's SIA, because we live in the land of fun misspelled names, is what I call it.
Always, all the time, and mispronouncing names all the time.
But yeah, so we're always looking for more Sage ambassadors, and I will be at XBiz and AVN. I realize this may come out right while we're at AVN, but if it comes out before, come say hi to me at XBiz, because that's the week before AVN. Yeah. But I'll be at both. Yes. I'll be running around like a crazy person. You can always see me because I have bright red curly hair. And like, let me point this out. It is real hard to stand out in a room of porn stars. And I just wear my hair as big as possible, and everyone can always find me.
I'm holding you to that. If I end up going to AVN, I am definitely going to be seeking.
Oh my God, I would love it. I would love to meet you in person. It would be great. And then there is, important things like we do offer, we're in Los Angeles. Parking is a big thing. And so we do have parking, we have a full parking lot. We have discreet backdoor entrance. So you don't go in the front of the urgent care. You just ring the door at the back.
Awesome.
Sage Health representatives comes and gets you, takes you into our little office, gets it done. And so we want to make sure, one, you have parking, because I swear sometimes it takes longer to find the parking than actually to go do the errand I needed for the parking. So
Yes.
we try and make it as time saving as possible. We have parking, we have a discreet entrance for you. Do your testing and you're good to go.
You thought of literally everything. I'm so impressed.
I will tell you, my one favorite thing that all my friends laugh at me about, but they know it's because I asked them all the questions. We had to bring in snacks because, look, if you're getting your blood drawn, you need a snack. And then, of course, there's gummy bears for girls who have those types of scenes coming up. We have gummy bears available because I was always laughing at AVN because we always had a big old candy jar. Always had this big old candy jar. Bonnie, who was the office manager, I have no idea what the candy budget was, but it was excessive. And the amount of gummy bears she would buy, I would be like, why are we buying gummy bears? Why are you buying this many? And she goes, that's really what mostly girls eat before they do anal scenes. And I was like, I had no clue, but I took that knowledge and brought it straight to Sage. So we always have snacks. We have gummy bears for girls who can't eat,
I love it,
who are prepping for scenes. We've got you covered. I've got you covered on every level.
I mean, with that being said, Amy, are there any future plans for Sage? I know it's been only, at the time of recording, it's been a few months since you've been opened, but are there any future plans?
The goal is eventually to hit every major porn city, I guess. We're open in Los Angeles. Eventually, the goal is to be in Vegas, New York, and Miami. So we do want to be everywhere for all sex workers. I can't wait to expand and be able to help more people. And that's really what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I brought you on the show, because I think this is such a great service and pretty much groundbreaking, I think, in the adult industry. It's just, again, you've covered all the bases here. Everyone needs to go get tested at Sage Health. So with that being said, where can we find Sage Health? Plug all the things. How can we get in contact with perhaps you? Plug all the shit.
Got you. All right. We are on Instagram and Twitter, or X, sorry, miscalled it. My Sage Health is our handles. We're on Reddit. We're on FetLife. We're on every sex positive place I could possibly put us. Our website is mysagehealth.net. And then my personal email is amy@mysagehealth.net. You can also email us at hello@mysagehealth.net. We always have people working on it and are always there for you guys. So email hello@mysagehealth.net because I do fall asleep occasionally and I'm not always on my email 24 hours a day. If you're sending an email late at night, send it there. But let us know, reach out to us. And yeah, we're everywhere. We message back on the Instagrams, we message on the Twitters. So you will, sorry, X, I'm always going to call it the wrong thing. I'm always.
I'm the same way too. I'm never going to call it X. I'm just not.
Well, it also throws me off. You still have to go to twitter.com.
I know. And redirects you, but still, for me, it's always going to be Twitter. I'm sorry. Sorry, Elon.
I feel better. I'm in the same company. I'm like, yes. But yeah, find us on all the socials. My Sage Health is where we are on everything.
Perfect. And for everyone else listening at home or wherever, a lot of you are commuting and stuff, it is Stripped by Sia on all podcasts. No, I lied. Yes, no, correct. It is Stripped by Sia on all podcast platforms. If you do listen on Spotify and Apple, we would love if you rated us 5 stars. If you're enjoying the show, it is a free resource after all. And if you want to write a review on Apple Podcasts, I do read them all. Sometimes I'll read them out loud in the show as well. But yeah, all of your help it's greatly appreciated. This just helps more people discover the show. So please do that. If you want to reach out to myself, it's Stripped by Sia on Twitter/X. We also have Stripped by Sia podcast on Instagram, since my old account got deleted and suspended and all the things that happens to sex workers there. If you want to be on the show, you can also pitch out to me on my website, strippedbysia.com. There's a contact form. You go ahead and fill the form in, pitch yourself. I want to hear all about whatever idea or concept that we haven't talked about or have talked about on the show with your unique angle and stuff. But we are gearing up for season 7, so now is a good time to kind of get those pitches in. And again, patreon.com/strippedbysia if you're looking to support the show financially. And with that being said, it's new episodes every single Sunday, launching at midnight Pacific Standard Time. And Amy, I just want to thank you again for taking the time and coming onto the show to speak to us about Sage Health. For anyone who is in the Van Nuys area in Los Angeles, please give Sage Health a go and give them a try. Maybe they will be your new premier testing service. And yeah, they've pretty much they do all the things there, which is awesome. And thank you again for just sharing this lovely resource that is much needed in our industry.
Oh, and I forgot this, and I'm so sorry. I can't believe I forgot this. But anyone listening to the podcast today, we do have a $15 off code. Put in Stripped by Sia, and you'll get $15 off your test.
Woohoo! We'll definitely put that in. It's in the show notes. We'll put the top of the episode as well for anyone listening. Stripped by Sia for $15 off. Thank you so much, Amy, for joining us today. It was a complete pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Music by Ted D. Graphic design by Maria Bellandarama, and photography by Ian Dabrin.